Brilliant. I have returned. The bacon is just juicy and succulent.
There you go. All right, awesome. We can see what you're doing.
No. You don't want to see this fat.
Yeah, you're right.
naked
You're right. This
in
looks like shit,
bacon.
man.
No, dude, seriously. I've got myself 8.
We want to see you eat the bacon. That's what we want.
Bro, you ain't gonna see me eat this, man. It's got. I took some advice from a good friend of mine, and I rolled some peanut butter into it.
What?
And just as a treat, I'll drizzle some honey over it. And I tell you what, it is
not bacon.
Godly. It's bacon. No, dude, it's more than heaven. You're right. It's more than heaven. It's
hell.
It's like
the good kind.
The cardiac arrest in a little bacon slice. It's like the way you want to die. It's like, yes, please, I want another.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. At least you'll go out happy, and that's all we can ask, you know.
Damn right. Oh, I tell you what, my wife's looking at me going, like, never mind, love. I'll see you in the next life.
Save yourself. Yeah. Let me have all of the bacon.
Well, and I guess on that note,
you know what to do.
Yeah, right.
Welcome back, Bam, and FYI, we just went live.
Great.
Middle of a bacon conversation. No better way.
No better way. No better way to die and start a stream, I suppose. Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're finally starting to take the peanut butter bacon combination a little seriously.
I won't lie. I've got crunchy peanut butter, right? It's not smooth. It's crunchy peanut butter, and it's the cheapest, nastiest peanut butter you can find because that's the best way to have bacon, I believe. And it's just this
Might
little.
as well just go all out with it.
Dude, I'm not into this whole free ranged, tofu yoga, fucking organic shit. It's just peanut butter, bro. Just nasty and do it. If you're gonna die happy. Die young and beautiful like me.
Join the 27 club or whatever.
I'm not 27. I'm 35. I've lived long enough. I'm fine, man. I'm an old timer, dude.
Club.
The 35 club.
I'm an old timer, dude. I'm an old timer. I'm going to die young and happy. I'm midlife crisis me, so that's bacon. That's my midlife crisis. Right there,
that's the best midlife.
You know it. Well, you were playing a game, Drake, weren't you? I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Well, I guess we probably should just start over. So, welcome back, and we are live with the developers of Bevontule. Did I say it right that time?
That was real. That was pretty much it. Yeah. I honestly, couldn't have picked a better, more easily pronounced title.
I'm so surprised by everyone's trouble.
No, that was good. And yeah, we're the developers. My name is Derek.
I'm Andy.
And we
created what you see here.
Yes.
And that black world that you saw possibly earlier.
We created Twitch. No.
Yeah, I don't know what that was before. We were wandering through a shadow world, but it seems to be, I was only seeming to have that issue with OBS and Streamlabs OBS, so not with the built-in NVIDIA software.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure there's just some random setting that's just, lurking somewhere.
Well, we also take reference from Earthbound, we like to say. So that was just our version of Moonside. I don't know if you guys play Earthbound.
I'm sure we got someone's
going to appreciate that.
So let's get started out with, I guess as Bam would say, the human interest stuff. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got into making games?
Okay, so let's go back about 20 years or so. Andy and I actually, so we were from the same place, basically, a little place called South Webster, very small village, town, what have you. Went to elementary school together and, junior high, high school, all of that. But we actually met in middle school. Actually, the first time I think we realized that we both had interest in RPGs was with the game Earthbound. And that's, I think I was just at a sleepover at your house. Basically,
what is that?
Yeah, I saw this game Earthbound sitting there and was basically like, oh, yeah, this is cool. I've played this before. And that kind of just sparked our initial love of RPGs, and we just kind of throughout the years, we kind of bonded over that. That was kind of our shared interest. it wasn't really that cool back then to be like into video or, into RPG stuff like that as much.
Everyone's playing that Mario crap.
Yeah, yeah, that new Mario game. But,
You've made a fan of Bam because he's been enjoying bashing the Nintendo Switch as much as he can.
Carry on.
I don't. That's a disclaimer. That's Andy's opinion.
No. Also, fair warning here. Solid invisible wall. So.
Oh yeah. So this is basically the starting area.
Yeah, that goes back to the world map, which you can't get to in this demo.
So, but anyway, so we were always interested in video games, RPGs in particular, and in high school, I actually wrote a book, if you could call it that. It was more like a collection of really badly written
words and phrases.
Yeah, right. And it was like a
name from the word Bevontule.
Right. And in high school, I wrote this book, and it was basically the rough draft that would form the backbone for the plot of this game. Granted, it's changed a lot since then. It better have changed since then because that was a long time ago. But we based this game loosely, the plot of this game loosely off that book. Still have the book, by the way, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Like we have
120 some pages of high school written dialogue and environment descriptions and everyking else.
Yeah, not good. But anyway, that kind of gave us the idea for the plot. Obviously, it's changed a lot since then. But kind of our mutual, admiration of video games is what led us to, after graduating high school, we went to a college called Shawnee State University. It's a local Portsmouth, Ohio college, and it just so happened that they had at the time, and they still have a great program, but at the time they had one of the best game design and simulation programs in the country. It was top 10 on several national lists. So we went through that. In circa 2009, we actually graduated from that program. So fast forward about 6 or 7 years, we actually both ended up working at the same place. It was not a video game company. It was just a software company, local place in Portsmouth. He did healthcare software and I did microcontrollers. It was a very interesting blend of vocations that we had there. And eventually we both saved up enough money and were content. We were like, we're not getting any younger. We're basically on death's doorstep. We got to do this game or we're never going to get it done. And
we missed the 27 club.
Yeah, we missed the 27 club. So we were like, in 2015 or so, that's, we took the plunge. We quit our jobs because that's the smart thing to do. Very, very intelligent just to give up your financial security. And we took the plunge and decided to.
No. You've got that backwards, bro. Don't give up your financial security, bro. What the hell?
I know. But basically, I was very heavy sarcasm there.
We wanted to secure our insecurity.
Right. We wanted to make sure we did not have an income for the next few years. But basically,
dedication to the cause, I must say. Jesus, fair play.
Well, thank you. No, but we basically quit our full-time jobs there. We honestly, our original estimates were like, yeah, this game won't take that long to make. We were very wrong about that. It's taken the better part of 3 years at this point. We've been working on it, pretty much full-time. And honestly, I don't regret any of it. It's been a hell of a journey. We've learned a lot. We've obviously, got
created a lot. I mean, there's,
right. And we've got, a lot of the fundamental systems in place. Really at this point, and that's kind of why we went to Kickstarter in the first place. We got to the point where we just had kind of exhausted all of our savings and our fundings that we've received thus far. And we're just, we're kind of going to Kickstarter for that last push. So that's pretty much that's kind of the condensed history of multi-threaded games and Bevontule and kind of where we came up with the idea for doing it.
Well, you guys say created a lot. I've got to say, at least visually, the look of the game is really cool. I like it.
Thank you. And yeah, that's something it's been a very long work in progress. You can look back at, we actually put together a recent, YouTube video that kind of is like a retrospective kind of look at Bevontule for the past 3 years. You can kind of see it in all of its glory. You know how it started out in early 2015. Graphically, it was quite bad.
Yeah, we were very proud of it.
We were proud of it.
Funny how you look back at it and you're like, what in the hell were we doing? And how did that convince us to quit our jobs?
Yeah, right.
You know, it's like, what part of that video
was enough, right?
Yeah.
But we just kind of stuck with it. We knew it was, we're a small team. Obviously, there are two of us have made the bulk of this game by far. We've outsourced art and music and other things, graphic design, stuff like that. But for the most part, it has been us day in and day out for the past 3 years working on it. Treating it basically like a full-time job, a 9 to 5.
A very horrible, cheap full-time job.
Right. It's like the full-time job that you lose money when you work there. But no, we're, wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been a great experience for us. And, we've learned a lot and gotten to a point that we never imagined we would. So, that's pretty much, that's the rundown.
That's funny. You mentioned the storytelling and stuff that you guys had. I think anybody who played RPGs, especially as a kid and a teen, probably did the same kind of thing with world building and story building. And
100% came from that, and even the naming, a lot of the names and stuff. Bevontule itself, it's a made up word. It doesn't really have any real life significance. It was just kind of cobbled together from what I thought sounded cool at the time. And it just kind of just stuck as the name. And the world, you're spot on with the world building and stuff. That's just something that, I think anybody who's interested in fantasy environments, fantasy worlds, role-playing games, that's just something that they kind of naturally gravitate towards. And we were just fortunate to get to a point in our lives where we had the knowledge and the passion and, I guess, capability to do this and actually work on the game.
So what attracted you guys to making a game specifically like turn-based, as opposed to a lot of the real-time stuff you see? Why did you go turn-based instead of real-time?
We kind of wanted to, when we set out to make Bevontule, well, for one, again, Bevontule, the idea of Bevontule started when turn-based was the go-to RPG. Going out playing Final Fantasy Tactics, things, Earthbound, Suikoden, turn-based games. When we started when he wrote the, Bevontule, the original book there, turn-based was still kind of the go-to way to play an RPG. And when we set out to make this, a couple years back, we kind of want to pay an homage to the games we played growing up. Like I said, the games we just mentioned, Xenogears, if you can think of an old school RPG, we probably played it. And, we want to pay a little bit of service to those, because as much as I like some of these action type RPGs, a lot of them, in my opinion, just aren't like the JRPGs that I'm used to. I don't, Final Fantasy 15 was fun in its own right, but the combat was too actiony for me. It's not the Final Fantasies that I grew up with.
I have
That's
a question,
funny.
Drake. I'm going to stop you there, dude. You play, Drake. You play. I'm going to speak to them. You get talking on the microphone. Go play your game. Listen, dudes. Right. I got a question for you. Right. When it comes to turn-based games, right? The turn-based games I played when I was a kid. This is going to sound really bad. Was chess, right? Now,
The original turn-based.
The original turn-based, imported directly from Persia. Yes, but for me, it was a case of you got your Famicom, that's the system I grew up with, right? And you played your Final Fantasies on your Segas, because I went from Famicom to Sega. I didn't get to play all those other games. But what makes this one different to all the other turn-based games out there? I'm not saying what makes it different to chess, because I'm saying what makes it different to Final Fantasy. What makes it different to any other sort of clone of Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy has become of turn-based games.
Sure. Well, there's actually a lot of things, but I would say the foremost thing, and I think this is what people probably pick up on immediately, or that's something that we've tried to push, is the combat system. While it is turn-based, it's very different than a lot of the turn-based games we played back then. Essentially, a lot of the old school Final Fantasies and stuff use like the ATB system, where there was no movement in a lot of these games. Now, there were notable exceptions, but for the most part back then, you just have your characters lined up and you have the enemies lined up, and you would just turn after turn and just kind of pummel on each other for a while until one side was completely dead. Now, this game actually has, as you can see, and as you guys are watching it, everybody in the stream watching, there's a significant element of positioning and movement in this game that's a little bit different than, it has more of a tactical slant to it. One of the other things we were careful to well, not really careful, but kind of we wanted to do was move away from a grid-based tactical system. So instead of, having this grid that kind of restricts your movement, you have this more circular kind of free movement scheme where you can kind of just run around and look at your skills. It's kind of like Xenoblade a little bit, if you're familiar with, which I'm sure people here are familiar with Xenoblade, except Xenoblade was more actiony. This is more turn-based, but kind of borrows, seeing the attack ranges of your skills all the time when you're selecting your skills. You can run around and look at your targets. And another thing that kind of sets it apart combat-wise is just, we wanted to have each character have very specific and customizable roles. So a lot of Final Fantasies and again, there are exceptions to this too. A lot of Final Fantasies allowed a lot of the characters to kind of do anything they wanted. Like a lot of the roles were just overlappable. And in this game in particular, we really wanted to emphasize that character customization and building your characters to your, however you want. There are a lot of different ways to make the combat work. And you can kind of see that reflected in this demo build even. So that's it. Sorry.
Brilliant. No, dude, brilliant. What you just told me, yes, ma'am, it's the better than what it was. We've made it slick, given a better paint job, and we've made the game more, less rigid.
Exactly. We tried to modernize it and kind of improve on a lot of, back then, there wasn't. Basically, it boils down to we've had a lot more influence to draw upon than they did back then. And, we incorporate elements of those games into our game, but we've tried to give them kind of, like you said, kind of modernize them in a sense, and make them a little bit more appealing, because gamers these days, a lot of gamers don't necessarily know about how, some, obviously, they're us old folk that remember the good old days where, you had like the golden era that,
generation now grew up playing first person shooter.
Right, it's right. And everything kind of like, you're just button mashing and just tearing through enemies. And it's very, I don't want to say mindless. And again, that's not a general, I don't mean to generalize there, because every game, there are obviously different games that cater to different tastes and stuff. But mainly we felt that turn-based games are kind of underrepresented now. And that's mainly why we wanted to do this. I kind of
feel like they're making a comeback in general. The last year or two, a lot of tactical indie games have really kind of, Banner Saga, things like that. Divinity, all these tactical turn-based games are finally starting to make it big. And we really feel like hopefully we can ride that wave and get ours out there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think lately you're right. That same thing. They seem to be making a comeback, especially in the indie circuits. But I think one of the things you've done really well here is giving us that free roam to just run around the world, and then the little bit of movement within the combat itself. So that's pretty cool the way that works.
Yeah, a lot of the tactical games tend to just take you from battle to battle without actually letting you explore. And again, that's fine in its own right. Even Banner Saga, they kind of your party roams across the landscape. You don't really control them, and then you come across another battle. And that's fine, but, we kind of wanted to bring into that Western RPG aspect as well, where you have these big, wide open spaces, and you got to go out and explore and talk to the people and, finish quests. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into a turn-based battle. So, yeah, the wide open spaces here, that's kind of I wouldn't say it's unique to the JRPG, because again, a lot of them today.
Well, if you think about Xenoblade, Xenoblade has some pretty expansive areas while still maintaining that kind of JRPG identity. We've also gotten a lot of flack though for the ways that we've tried to describe this game. You know, a lot of people we say it has JRPG inspirations, but then people assume that we're talking about the art. But really, what we're talking about are the mechanics. And kind of like the turn-based, you know, the fact that it's turn-based. And at the same time, we've gotten flack by saying it's more like a Western RPG because we have turn-based battles and tactical battles. So it's kind of hard. We feel like this space that's not wholly one thing or the other, but it just tries to bring different aspects of each of the games in. And I'm glad that you seem to, I appreciate you saying that you enjoy that blend, because I think that's something that, if done well and done correctly, I think that will be a kind of a boon to gaming in general, role playing games.
Well, here's the thing. You've mentioned play your game. I'm talking, bro. Go play a game. Go play a game. Right. No, seriously. You've mentioned Xenoblade quite a lot. And yes, it's Xenoblade, not Xenoblade. It's Zebra, not Zebra. Zebra, brah. It's
Xylophone.
Yeah,
that's how they say things on the bottom side of the world.
I'll slap you so hard you'll right. Seriously, son. I'll slap you into next week. No, seriously, what games, RPG, not necessarily JRPG, but what games influenced you in making this game? Because I'm seeing similar characters, and the thing is, I can't put my finger on what these characters remind me of, but I'm hoping you can tell me, because I've seen these characters before. At least I want to say I have.
Well, the characters were actually one of the things that we tried to avoid from, like, whenever you were talking earlier about differences between this game and traditional JRPGs. So obviously the characters are not, I don't want to say anime, ish. They're really not from that kind of same mold. They're a little bit more realistic to some extent, and a little bit more mature of characters in the plot and the characterization. So for instance, in this game in particular, they're not trying to save the world or stop, it seems like most JRPGs are like trying to, do some crazy lofty thing. But in this game, it's kind of more like your main character is actually kind of a representative of, he's kind of like, there's a lot of deceit and kind of lying from all these characters about what they're there to do and why they've come together and kind of joined up, they're kind of mistrusting of each other to some extent. And that's not to say that they're not interesting characters in their own right. But there's not really this emphasis on like, yay, everything's cool and we're happy and we're joining forces. And, it's kind of a grim fantasy. It doesn't appear like it from this particular area. But the continent in which this game takes place is kind of on its last legs. And there are just a very few number of places that are still habitable by humans. So there's kind of this overarching, I guess, feeling that like, we've got this continent, it's going to be in complete ruin within the next 50 to 100 years. And that's kind of, you don't really get that sense of that from this demo because it's just a very small taste of what we have. But as for the, influences for the characters themselves, again, mainly Western RPGs. So like stuff like Dragon Age.
Hell yeah. Good game.
Yeah. Dragon Age is something that we really enjoyed playing. Even things like Skyrim or Oblivion in terms of like the open world aspects. Really enjoyed those games. And
those are good games, but Dragon Age, because of the story behind Dragon Age, I felt was a lot better.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Skyrim. It's a great game, Skyrim. I've played it to an inch of its life, but
no, I get what you're saying. Like Skyrim doesn't have any kind of, it definitely is a very forgettable story and an overall plot, which again, that's what, that's nothing, not to discredit it. It wasn't like trying to be like that. But to some extent, even games like Dark Souls, and that game is not the most
story heavy.
Right.
That game gives me nightmares, Dark Souls.
Yeah, I think it gives us all nightmares, even those who have not played it. You just like have a random. It's like you get invaded by your dream.
Mate, I played Dark Souls, and I tell you what, it's just not me.
I get that. It's one of those games. Oh man, yeah. Don't. I feel the same way. Like I loved it. I loved the atmosphere and the environments and stuff. But I have just personally never been that frustrated with like certain aspects of the game. And it's not like it was cheap or anything. Well, some things were a little cheap, but for the most part, it was pretty well, skill based. And maybe that was my, again, I'm more of a turn-based, methodical player. I like to plan out.
Yeah, I like my mind, not my body.
There you go. That's an interesting.
I like putting things in my body that constitute bacon. Mm.
Yes. Now let's get back on the bait now.
Yeah, bacon
through the game. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
No, it did. It's just some of the characters, they looked familiar. I'm like, I've seen these characters before. Where was their inspiration drawn from? So that was my question. When I'm watching the game played right now, so I can see what Drak's doing, and you're doing it wrong, Drak. Never mind.
He's so close to hitting him.
Yeah,
it would highlight briefly and then go away. So I was trying to get it to
that's
highlight.
Actually funny that you brought that up, because that's something that is kind of, I don't want to say an annoyance, but it is interesting that you can get that close to enemies sometimes. We might want to put some kind of like buffer in there so you don't have to deal with situations where you're like
just barely able.
Yeah,
you have to be within the.
Because that's not fun for the play. When you're just sitting there kind of trying to jitter back and forth and get into the right spot. Like that's a little.
You better believe I'll try it every single time. Can I hit all 3 of these targets with this AoE? I'm going to sit here for the next 3 minutes and try to find that exact position.
And that's silly bug, man. Every single time I'll spread my characters out, they still find a way to hit at least 2 of them.
Yeah. That's it's funny that you say it. Like we've spent we've done a lot to make the AI as vicious and kind of unforgiving as possible to within certain restraints. Obviously, the bug is not one of them, though. He definitely if he can hit all your characters, he'll pretty much do it every time.
We actually had a post hit the front page of Imgur detailing our enemy AI using that bug because of his annoyance. Like right there, like he will hit as many of you as possible almost every single time.
But yeah, back to talking about that post. We actually, like Andy said, we had a post recently on Imgur that got pretty high up and got a lot of views and stuff. And we've always, kind of tried to be open about the development process of this game, like trying to let people know exactly, or trying to get, the community involved as much as possible. Again, RPGs are kind of, in my opinion, at an inherent disadvantage when you're trying to build up that. It's hard to show something flashy with an RPG unless you're going for something like graphical. A lot of it's in the gameplay itself. And for better or worse, RPG gameplay isn't the most illustrious, I guess, the most illustrious thing you could show off. On the other hand, RPG fans are very diehard. So if you have something that, people tend to try something as long as it seems to align, even a little bit with their interests. So we've always tried to be open and try to, get feedback and stuff from.
This is actually our 6th playable demo that we've put out. So, over the years, we've always kind of wanted to show people where we were instead of tell them. It's like, hey, this is where the battle is right now. We put out a battle demo, 4 or 5 selectable battles, just because we wanted to know what people felt about the battle. We got some great feedback.
Right. And it's just all, we've always just spent time, listening to that feedback. It's like a lot of some of the cool battle improvements have come from people, what they wanted to see in the combat. And we're like, oh yeah, that would be a cool thing to add. So yeah, it's definitely, I think, especially nowadays, video game development is very much a communal thing where you people are more interested in the process than they've ever been, and they love to let you know about it. Yes, they definitely are very vocal. So, and RPGs especially, these are games that people have a lot of strong opinions about, and they're oftentimes very good opinions. People have a lot of.
And oftentimes horrible opinions.
That's also true.
Welcome to the internet. Where you're never allowed to be wrong.
Right. You get the bad with the good, but I think the most important thing is just being able to justify your decisions, and just always be able to explain why you feel the way that you do. And if you can do that, you're all right in my book. If you're just randomly ranting or yelling about something, don't take it as seriously usually, but you have some of that too. But
so listen, guys. Will you guys be putting in some co-op into this game? This game looks tantalizing. I actually might want to jump in with Drac and go for a swim.
I don't know. We've talked about maybe having like multiplayer, but I don't know if it would be more from a co-op perspective or more from like a PvP perspective where you could actually fight other parties. I don't know really. Like, part of me wants to say that I don't know how fun this game would be in a co-op type of, in a co-op sense. But on the other hand, I don't really know because I've not I know like Divinity has like a co-op system. I don't know if it'd be better suited for a game like that just because of its, I don't know, the fact that it is more of a computer RPG and you can do way more stuff in it than this. I don't know. It's an interesting question. It's something we've definitely thought about. I don't know. I wish I could give you a more concrete answer. We'll definitely be focusing on the single player. So, and the multiplayer will be, if anything, kind of an afterthought, I suppose, if we were to add it at all.
Well, best streamline your efforts into a great first player experience, and then not tack on a multiplayer experience, but incorporate it into various aspects of the game. I suppose a bit like what Dark Souls do.
Exactly. That's actually funny that you brought that up because that's one of the things we wanted to kind of take if we were to ever have a multiplayer version of it. You could basically challenge other parties that are in the same area as you. So it'd be like kind of an opt-in, type situation where you're not like, you're not just like fighting other people all the time. But that's actually, I think turn-based games like this have a lot of potential for multiplayer PvP type situations specifically. And I think that's something that's not been looked at with the proper. I don't know. I guess I could see a lot of potential in it, but at the same time, it'd definitely be hard to do it right. But sorry,
it's no easy feat. That it's difficult because God, it's difficult. There's another indie team, Cosmic Picnic, that's working on people playing either locally or via the internet on a game that splits 4 ways, and it's been a nightmare to program and develop for them, but they've managed to do it after a lot of hard work and a lot of tears and a lot of blood and sweat. They've done it, so it's a great game, and sure, I'm sure after a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, mostly tears, and then add on a little bit more tears, I think it'll work and it'll be a good game.
Right. No, I definitely. I'm of that. I agree with you 100%. It's like one of those things that you really have to be careful with because multiplayer stuff is just, it's a different, from a development standpoint, it's definitely a different can of worms than just doing single player stuff. And honestly, if you don't closely integrate it, if you don't have that idea in the very beginning, it's definitely hard to kind of tack it on at the end. So it's definitely an architectural thing, I guess, if that makes any sense. It's definitely something you want to focus on at the beginning.
Right. So you've got to focus on co-op for what you reckon this game. You've got to focus on the co-op in the beginning rather than. I
wouldn't say a focus. It's just the more
further along we get, the harder.
Right. It's like adding like building it. It's like building a house. You do all the plumbing and electricity, and then you decide you want to like add a new room somewhere, but you have to tear up all the cabling and like. Stuff like that. So it's kind of, I know it's not a perfect analogy, but it's kind of like that to some extent. Also, I wanted to point out, you can actually learn more skills in this as well if you go to the main menu, and just because I saw that you had like 10 AP, you can actually go to the main menu pressing spacebar. Or not spacebar, sorry, tab. Don't know my own controls. I'm sorry.
Wow.
What game is what is this? Grand Theft Auto? But no, basically, if you go to each of the characters there, you can, and that basically for each character, there's a separate skill tree. And I'll just let you kind of look through those. But you can essentially, using your AP that you have, it shows it up in the top left corner. Yeah, there you go. Blade toss. That's right.
He's
You
so
know what's
confused
up.
by you. It's like he's like 20 seconds ahead of what you're actually
That's
seeing.
true.
So he's
That's
like,
true.
I know.
True. There you go. So, yeah, there you go. He's figuring it out. So basically, and then if you just hit escape or hit right click, it'll take you back.
Or better yet, I don't think a single streamer has found this out yet. You can actually alternate between the characters using the bracket buttons or those little arrows by the character as well.
Right.
Oh, okay.
It's in the control panel, but again, you have to. There are a lot of controls.
So these AP, is that per character? So when I'm using the AP here, it's not taking away from the other characters.
Exactly. So each character has its own AP count, and you gain that basically from combat. And then EP is actually something you gain via leveling up, and you can put
Amongst other ways eventually, such as items.
Right. So AP gets expended and you can't get it back, whereas EP gets expended, but you can get it back if you unequip the skill. So, like, you see that it's out of 9 on the top left. Unequip all your skills,
Yeah.
you get it all back.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into the whole build your party how you want. You know, you can unlock all the skills, but you can only choose so many to take in the battle. And you know, and again, each character will have 1, 2, maybe 3 different different trees, if you will, to basically focus on. You know, so Morok here could be more of a healer or more of like a support CC crowd control type character or something. So, you know, you get to choose, do I want to put a few of each or just focus on one? And it just kind of brings that, you know, allows you to control how the characters are set up a little bit more than just the equipment.
So how many total characters can you have in your party at any one time?
We're actually going to change it to 4. We only have 3 characters implemented, but the final version of the game you'll be able to have a 4-person party, which will just it will make it 10 times more interesting in certain ways, because the next character she'll actually be a ranged character as well. So you'll be able to do a lot more interesting things in combat. You notice a lot of these melee, with few exceptions, some of them have ranged attacks. But ultimately, to answer your question, you'll be able to have a 4-person party.
You seem very explaining a bit more about that combat. What are the mechanics like when you actually get into the game? You seem very sort of guarded. Oh, I can't tell these people that the arrow can split into 5 and then damage for 10 or whatever have you. Come on, spill the beans.
So one of the things that we haven't really talked about, and they're not really implemented in the too much, is skill upgrades. So when you ask things like, split an arrow into multiple projectiles, that's something that you'd actually be able to do in the final version of the game. Not exactly that, but something similar to that. So, for instance, like blade toss, the skill blade toss that we were looking at earlier. Right now, that just throws a single blade at a target, and it can be blocked by other targets. So if you have an enemy walk out in front of it, you're hitting that enemy. But you can actually apply an upgrade to it that you learn and unlock, just like these other skills that will allow it to pass through multiple targets. Same with, things like, Valiant Charge was a skill that you learned just a second ago. It has an upgrade that actually lets you knock back the target that you hit. And there's all kinds of little things like that. So some of the skills will, the upgrades will change it from being single target to multiple targets. Skills that might have did some kind of healing effect could do a damaging effect. There's just all kinds of things that we have planned, all kinds of potential upgrades that you can put on your character. I think the reason you might think I maybe come off as cagey about it is because there's going to be a lot of balancing and stuff that we'll obviously need to do. It's going to obviously require a lot of play testing.
And Elvalie herself, we've yet to actually implement her in the battle, so it's hard to know exactly how having a bow and arrow might affect. Will she?
Linnell,
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Linnell. Will her arrows go straight? Will they have an arc? Will they? Will she? What type of skills will she have? We have all these ideas, but until we actually implement her, and see how she plays. It's kind of hard to really make any promises or really even talk about exactly how that's going to work out.
So what I heard there is yes, Bam, even your drunk ass can hit something with this ability. So I'm happy with that.
Right.
There we go. Happy with that. I just throw once and I hit 5 guys. Happy with that. Yes.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. You'll definitely be able to. And again, there are a lot of, each skill will have anywhere from 3 to 12 different upgrades. So there's a lot of potential for, kind of add on to what Andy said earlier. It's like if you wanted to, you could put all of your points in one skill and make it the most badass skill ever. You could have the blade toss, just kill everybody on the map. Okay, maybe not that. But you basically have a blade toss that's like super upgraded, but you wouldn't have any other skills available. So it's kind of it's just a toss up essentially to what, as to how you want to build your characters. And we think maximum flexibility is good there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's going to be a lot of customization in terms of that.
What kind of a reputation do these characters have? Because, man, I just walked up on this guy and he's like terrified of me.
Well, I'll be honest with you. So the main character, Bodum, he's the one there with the kind of mask over his face. He's not actually from this area. He just kind of showed up and got himself involved with this group called, they're called the Coalstone Syndicate. They're not really bad people necessarily, but they are kind of a smuggling organization. So Morok there, he's actually the leader of the and Apolith, the guy with the sword, is kind of the muscle or brain. He's kind of the brains of the organization too.
Yeah, the hidden, not so obvious brains.
Right. But he's basically kind of he's kind of a rougher looking dude. So people tend to, whenever they see him, he actually has some disdain for these people too, which adds to their little back and forth. But Apolith, they're basically part of this organization, and they actually took the organization from the previous owners of it, which were more violent and vicious than they are now, and they kind of toned it down a little bit. But like with all things in this game, there's a reason why they're using that organization. It's kind of a front for some other goal that is more expanded upon in the actual game itself.
Ooh, side missions, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that, a lot of lore and backstory and plot. These guys, this Coalstone Syndicate has its own headquarters in a different place in the game, and you can actually, in the early parts of the game, go there and get different side quests and just all kinds of different stuff. So we're definitely want to focus on having side quests, but at the same time, we don't want to hold back in our day when we played RPG, you didn't even know whether you were doing a side quest. You talk to somebody, they'd say something, and you had to really pay attention to what you were being told. It's not like you had like a quest marker, or you didn't have some kind of notification log. You actually needed to pay attention and read all the dialogue. And we kind of want to go back to that a little. I don't think we're going to be so extreme as like something like Morrowind that is like, it's like you have such a massive world that you don't even know what to do. This will be a little bit more focused, but we definitely want to bring back some of that, not be as hand-holding as games these days are.
Right, so ruthless. Great, brilliant.
Somewhere between ruthless and hand-holding. So it's a large spectrum.
Yeah, so tyrannical. Great, even better.
You're right. Exactly.
God. It won't end. It won't end, honestly. You can never find the best balance between ruthless and handholding, because there's always two, in my experience, again, there's always two ends of the spectrum. You never find the bit that meets. So go full retard, go ruthless, but then you leave the new players behind. But then their learning curve monstrous. So it's going to be interesting to see where you guys draw the line. Very interesting.
I agree with you, and that's kind of this is already kind of RPGs are kind of a niche genre anyway, although arguably less so over time. They've kind of the mainstream a little bit. But this is definitely a more niche game kind of within that. Now, obviously, we want to try to make it as
appealing.
Yeah, we want to appeal to the same time. We don't, like you said, we don't want to sacrifice our kind of our own vision and ideas of what the difficulty should be like. So yeah, like you said, it's going to be a careful balancing act, and honestly, we're just as excited as you are to see where it ends up taking us and where we end up, going with it and how far we can push it. And a lot of it comes down to just play testing. A lot of people have streamed the game, and we watch a lot of those and see what people are getting. People are getting hung up on or don't understand fully, and we're always looking to try to make it as relatable or appealing as possible, like Andy said.
You come down on them like sledgehammers. You idiots! You don't
yeah, exactly. Just like,
and we have a couple of troll accounts. We go on there.
Ah, right. There we go. I thought so. Yeah, troll, brah, troll. That's right.
Like if you die once, the game just like uninstalls itself.
Yeah.
That'd be a little
oh
bitchy.
God, that comment never ceases to amaze me. You bad, bro. Uninstall now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, they go further with it. It's like, also, it's not enough to do that. You have to also kill yourself. It's like, all right, thanks.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, uninstall the game first.
We don't want your wife to have to do it for you after you're untitled.
Brutal, man.
Of course, yes. Trolls, yes, great. Never feed the troll because it just gets worse.
It does. That's something we've had to. I'll admit, sometimes it's difficult to not argue. Sometimes I've fallen into it a time or two, but usually it's you kind of get a thicker skin after working on this for so long and exposing it to people. Everybody will jump on you and definitely love to tell you what they think about it, and it's you just have to kind of take it all with a grain of salt.
Yeah, pinch of salt and all that. So listen, guys. A question I've been formulating in my beautiful blonde head and with lovely blue eyes, face full of bacon and stuff. Right. So you guys have got partial controller support, yeah?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So where does that lead you guys down? Which rabbit hole are you going to jump down there, rather? Is that console related, maybe?
I think at GameCube.
Console peasants?
GameCube. Yeah. Actually, Famicom. No, yeah, we played
Famicom, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Hey man, there's
Final Fantasy 15's now on mobile. They changed the entire game. Why not? Why can't we?
There is I kid you not, there is a game on Kickstarter right now for Nintendo 64 that has raised tens of thousands of dollars. So take that.
I believe that one that happened.
It's it was like 3 weeks or something. It's based on an older game. People love that retro stuff, but unfortunately,
what was that game? What was that Mega Man game that got all the backing and then
Mighty Number 9?
Oh yeah, Mighty Number 9. Yeah,
there we go. Mighty Number 9. No, never go back into the times.
Exactly. It's like
you've played Mega Man before. They don't want Mega Man.
Right. Well, it's even like that ukulele game that came out. A lot of people played it and they're like, man, this is too much like Banjo-Kazooie, which came out, 20 some years ago.
Yeah, it even had the same camera issues as like Nintendo 64 games. And they came out and they've updated it since, but some of the major problems were problems that not problems, they were what you had to have during the Nintendo 64 time. We're like, let's make it like that, guys. Let's not update this to where the camera is fully functional. No, we'll keep the old school Nintendo 64 controls.
Well, sorry to derail. We'll get back to I'll get back to your original question, but just to add to that, it's I know we're going.
Got to start it.
We're going on a tangent now, boys. No, it's just I think about
hold on tight, boys and girls. We're going for a ride.
2 hours. We'll get back to it. No, it's just it's like you said. There's a careful line where you don't want to make it too archaic and old school. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Something like Mighty Number 9. A lot of people think they want stuff like that until they actually play it, and they're like, "Man, I don't know that I wanted that." So, I don't know.
Why is the fish dude fighting alongside the plant? I'll quote one of our Russian reviewers and say, "The flora and fauna of the world have declared war on the party."
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, that was.
They just have some kind of pact. We'll just put it that way. They're just they've been good friends for a long time, and they're just they're sick of all these humans coming up on their territory.
The plant can't move, and the food actually brings him food from time to time.
But these plants actually have legs. That actually kind of surprised me the first time.
The purple ones can move. They're the females. The red ones cannot.
But that actually goes back to just a good old
RPG.
A good RPG trope in general. It's like all these enemies apparently have like some
herbivores, carnivores. They all fight together against the humans. So
I almost am waiting for one of you guys to break out in song "Circle of Life" or something like that.
Exactly. This is all exactly.
We're actually queuing it up on our phone right now. Hold on.
Okay, but let's see. Back to your original.
What was that?
The original controller support. Right now,
wow, so that's a heck of a tangent indeed.
Yeah, it was. So right now, you can play it with an Xbox 360 controller. Natively, it supports that. We're actually in talks with what's it called, Andy?
ID at Xbox.
There's an ID at Xbox program right now where you basically that's how the developer would submit their game to be playable on that console.
We can't make any promises, but we've done our due diligence and impatiently waiting.
That's definitely something we want to look into because, again, we played a lot of these games on consoles as children, and it definitely this game we've made it with consoles in mind. Now, granted, we obviously want to make it appealing to the PC crowd as well, and that's why we have mouse and keyboard support as well as controller support. And obviously, it's a lot easier to develop a game for the PC crowd initially, and then the console stuff can be, eventually we're gonna have to deal with porting that and looking into it. But we figure if we get the controller support in now, that'll be less work and less stuff we have to look at later on down the road. And people just we've saw a lot of people playing the streams that just genuinely prefer to play it with the controller, and there's that's just
we've had streamers say, is there controller support because we only play games that have controller support? I've had someone ask that question. So you have to have at least the basic controller support in an RPG, no less. I feel like it's just kind of expected
in some ways this is easier to play with controller, but it's totally possible to do.
As we're seeing here.
I'm glad you guys have looked into supplying your game to the peasant masses rather than the elitists among us, the master races. I'm very glad. Right. And the reason why I use these phrases, peasants and...
No, I know exactly where you're going with this.
We've got a stick and a carrot, and we're just going to drag them along with it.
No. The reason why I've said it is because G got a really nasty comment on one of his videos he made the other day about calling the PC console peasants.
Yeah.
So I'm just reiterating it. Gee, you can't call people console peasants. You're not allowed.
It's fine. Sorry, everybody does it. It's all right.
That's just a dig at G for being G. Sorry.
It's kind of funny too because it's like people. It's so funny how people are about that. It's like you just can't you just enjoy your games in peace no matter what version of it you want to play it on.
No.
It's like absolutely not.
If you can't argue about what you love, then you really love it.
No, true, exactly. If you can't argue about that's exactly the phrase I was going to go for. Fucking well done, boys. It's a case of I've got the N64 version, but no, I got the Sega version, but no, I got the PS4 version. No, it all bickers and moans about who's better and
right,
whatever having. So yeah, I'm there with you. Yeah. Something. What is there to laugh?
Right.
What is Trap doing?
So you look like you're doing pretty well with this game, though. I've been paying attention to your strats and everything, and you seem like you've got a pretty good grasp on, what you're doing. You're taking out the enemies pretty handily, and
so you can go back and watch our last developer playthrough, and you'll see Derek die like twice in one fight.
Yeah, I got.
Oh, jeez.
I got whooped by my own. To be fair, that was a really hard battle.
It was an incredibly hard battle, but that's what you get for going in there thinking you don't have to worry about
game.
No problem.
And then I'm like trying to use cheat codes to get out of the fight.
Yeah, this one with these two Carcadons, man. This one might be a little rough.
Yeah, these guys are definitely a little more on the well. Since they're so big too, they actually can take up quite a bit of the battlefield space, and they like to knock around the characters and just kind of in general do annoying.
I saw you try to heal earlier, and he kicked your healer away from everyone else.
Yeah.
So,
You're getting them though. You're whittling them.
tell me, what is the what's the story element coming back to re-engage myself with it? What's the story like? You know.
So the plot of the game, basically, if that's what you're asking about. So essentially, there's this continent called Onyx, which is where the entirety of the game takes place, and basically, it's been it was discovered in the game's history. It was discovered almost 1,500 years ago, and basically, these people got to this continent. They're like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever!" We have this whole continent to ourselves. It's amazing. We're going to live peacefully and prosper. It turns out this continent was not such a great place after all, and they found out that there were a lot of kind of bad things lying in wait on this continent, which is kind of probably some of the reason why it was not inhabited before they got here. And one of these things are this kind of scourge or blight called the Kelvari, which they're kind of now you don't really see any of them in this demo because you're in a completely different area. So when I was talking about earlier how most of the continent is uninhabitable, it's because of these Kelvari creatures. And to put it briefly, I guess, the people that ended up on the continent to begin with kind of did some bad things that resulted in the Kelvari showing up and ultimately taken over most of the continent. And there's, the people don't really have a way to stop them. They have no idea how to stop them. They're just kind of like biding their time until. And
you can almost think of the Kelvari as like a blight as well. It's not just like a race. It's
exactly. It's not a sentient race. It's more like more like a roots of a tree. You could think of it as, and they actually call them roots in the game. It's more like you imagine there's just some growth, even like a fungus or something. That's maybe a good analogy. Yeah. But it's basically this giant network of roots that is slowly taking over the continent. But when they do this, they actually are able to fuse with certain, I guess you could say, organic matter, like corpses, plants, objects, trees, buildings, and they kind of form these creatures called root souls. And you can actually see some examples of that concept art on our Kickstarter page. So you have these roots kind of going around and taking over stuff and claiming land. And at the same time, you have these, I guess, root souls going around as well that are furthering, they're kind of just these homicidal, genocidal creatures that don't really have any thought or, thought processes to what they're doing. They're just going around basically slaughtering humans. And that's basically the backdrop on which all this is occurring now. The main character, Bodum, that you're actually setting up his skills right now, the one with the mask, he's actually comes from somewhere that he claims to be from a place where they don't have problems with the Kelvari, and where he basically eventually reveals that he knows a way to destroy them. And so that he kind of becomes in high demand, and there are a lot of other countries. And at the same time, while the Kelvari are kind of taking over the continent, you have a lot of the continent's major players, countries, nations, regions, and stuff kind of fighting amongst themselves as well, trying to figure out the best way to deal with it. And in some cases, so it's just, some countries are like, yeah, we're not even near this stuff. We'll let the other countries take care of it. So there's a lot of different stuff kind of going on in terms of that, with the different, there's a lot of political intrigue and that sort of thing. So that's kind of just the basic idea. Like, I don't want to go I don't want to be too spoilery with it, but you have a lot.
I'll go spoilery. It's a medieval Pandora. I'll go.
Kinda. It is a little bit inspired by that. Well, obviously, I mean, that's obviously an age old, Pandora's box. That's nothing yeah, I could definitely see that, and it is kind of the general theme of the game. I would say is people messing with things they ought not mess with. Kind of like opening up, like exactly like what you said, Pandora's box. It's just a more. They don't really mean to do what they don't really mean to do it, and they kind of get into a situation where they can't stop doing things that eventually lead to their downfall.
I like where you're going with it. I think, given that it's Avatar and Pandora, they mean like Avatar. In the world of Avatar was called Pandora.
I was just about to say that. You're giving way too much credit, Jeff.
No.
Pandora's box.
No, it's funny that you said that because I actually I didn't even notice Avatar. So there we go.
When he said Avatar, I thought he meant like the last Airbender. I'm like, I'm not seeing anything.
Avatar as in Pandora with the blue dudes and the trees
and the
ones
Pandora
and stuff.
Gotcha.
That was the planet.
We'll just say that you meant Pandora's box.
No, dude's giving me way too much credit. I'm not that clever, honestly. I ate bacon for 3 meals out of.
Once you said that, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like this guy is onto something. Like we got to change.
Well. I'd like to say I'm on something, yes, but way too much. I like where you went with it, though. Pandora. Honestly, I was referencing the little ball where they were mining cheese, and
sure,
whatever.
Yeah, in some ways, I guess you could. It's somewhat like that as well. Definitely a lot more mature of a plot. Definitely a more like.
Oh, what's more mature than complete genocide?
Yeah, no genocide. We've gone too far. No, but there we go.
No, you never go too far. You never go too far.
Oh man. So hopefully that answered your question, though.
Yeah, it did. I'm starting to like you a lot. You give me a lot more credit than what I'm doing. I like you a lot, bro. I like you a lot already.
Well, I like you.
Oh, well, there we go.
You got a friendship blooming, guys.
Yeah. Bromance. Warning.
Yeah,
bromance. So, listen, guys, at the very beginning, Drac briefly touched upon this. He said, how many of you guys are on there? And you guys said just the two of you? Was I right? Did I hear you right?
Yeah, it's Multi-Threaded Games. Our company has primarily been just up to Andy and I. We've done all the programming. We've done a lot of the art and environments. The world creation, the story, the characters, the systems. All that's been us.
Outreach.
Yeah, the marketing, a lot of the PR and stuff. We've done pretty much as we could do with the skills that we had. But that being said, I do want to give credit to other people that have helped us. We had, for a brief time, we had a 2D concept artist named Calvin Lai who helped us with nothing. He's helped us a lot with the concept stuff. None of it's made it into the final game yet, but those are basically springboards for, eventually whenever we have the capabilities to get those 3D models and stuff. A lot of those designs are going to be inspired by him, and he's helped us with a lot of the promotional stuff too, like the Kickstarter page.
All right, great. So you guys are also, did I hear this right? High school sweethearts, rather, with your bromance?
Yes,
was it?
We're elementary school sweethearts.
Back.
Oh, there we go. Elementary school sweethearts. Right. The bromance is that strong with these ones. Yeah. The bromance is strong with these ones. Lovely.
That's true. Honestly, if we hadn't known each other this long, I don't think we'd be able to have worked on this game so far without killing. Hell, we want to kill each other most of the time anyway. So it's, if you.
The only reason we're not strangling each other now is because we're online. Like, we were fighting, right? Hey, guys, this is like,
But, and like the audio stuff, I want to give a shout out to our composer, Mimi Page, who's pretty well known. She actually did some of the music for Fallout 4. And has an amazing, her own amazing kind of studio career. She's put out several albums, and she's, composed for several indie games, and she's actually just a really great person in general. And she's been able to nail the kind of the style that we were going for with this game. And she's, very, very talented. So those are the two, kind of main contributors to Bevontule outside of just Andy and I.
Okay. I just wanted to, because there was a nagging feeling that I didn't get I'll say good enough answer. I just didn't get the answer I wanted. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that there was more than two of you, but I wasn't. So I just had to re-ask you questions. Apologies,
No,
guys. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go put some more bacon in the oven.
Well, yeah.
You have the floor.
Ask your question.
You can ask your questions now, Drake. Yes, I
Well-
like these guys, Drake. I like them. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask about the crafting system, but before I get to that, the skill points. I've noticed that there are potions to get some of those points back.
Mm-hmm.
But then, is there other ways to get those points back other than when you level?
Yeah. So Bodum actually, I don't know if I saw you equip it earlier, but he actually has a passive. He has a skill that every time you use a basic attack, you'll get some of them back.
And there's also an
Oh,
end.
okay.
Well,
There's also an in this version of the game. It's back in the other scene, but you can go through there and get the points back. Eventually, there will be other ways to do it as well. Like maybe like some kind of passive skill that restores some of your SP every time it's your turn.
possibly just by running around in the world.
Running around. Yeah, like right now, nothing auto. But there will most likely be ways that you can get that to happen with different skills and stuff.
Okay, so I saw that listed that there either is or will be a crafting system in the game. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we actually, it's funny that you meant, we actually put out a Kickstarter update today that goes into that a little more in depth. But just briefly, so we wanted to try to get away from a couple things that we saw as, I don't want to say detrimental in previous crafting systems, but just like to try to make them a little bit more interesting. So one of the things is there's a mini game involved with crafting. Now it's skippable if you don't want to mess with it. But the way the mini game works is basically you're playing kind of a game within the game itself where you're trying to traverse these nodes that have different costs associated with them. And if you're able to successfully do it, it's almost like a puzzle. But if you're able to successfully do it, you'll earn one of the crafted items that are part of the recipe. Which leads me to the next thing. Each recipe has multiple items associated with it. So you're not just going to find a recipe that says like, hey, I can make an iron sword. No, you'll find a recipe that says like iron working 1 that basically lets you make, well, you can make a sword, daggers, a cuirass, any kind of equipment you want from it, or, several different pieces of equipment from it. And you get to choose which item you make from that recipe, and the way you do that is through this mini game. So and again, the Kickstarter update would actually explain it way better than I can. It's a very visual thing, but that's kind of the gist of it. And then, of course, you have all of your crafting materials that you can find out in the main in the game itself. You can harvest a lot of items, which I've seen you do that a few times. Get them as enemy drops. And even like there's a kind of a dismantling system that you can do as well with equipment. So we've got a lot of plans for it, and we've just recently started putting it into the game. So unfortunately, it didn't make it into this pre-alpha demo, but rest assured that it will be. We'll get it in there eventually.
Well, and along with that too, on Kickstarter, I saw something about a bestiary system.
Yeah, that's actually. Yeah, that's actually another kind of interesting, I guess kind of an innovation that we wanted to make on top of the other stuff. So basically we wanted to, a lot of RPGs have systems where you collect information about enemies. That's not exactly like new or anything, but we wanted to make it more of like a mini game. So that each enemy has like 5 or 6 pieces of information that you can learn about that enemy, and it will influence the different things that you're able to see in combat. So for instance, right now, the enemies, it doesn't show their visible HP numbers. But if you were to learn enough about that enemy, say you fought enough of those types of enemies, you would be able to eventually have its HP total revealed to you, like your characters have. Your characters have the actual visible numbers on the panels. And the enemies would also have that. Even like the movement radius, you can see the blue movement radius for enemies right now. And we just added that in there by, just for the sake of this demo. But eventually you wouldn't be able to see that outright. And you'd have to kind of have to earn the ability to see that. And it goes as far as, figuring out what items you steal from enemies, what enemies' individual stats are, what kind of strength values they have, all kinds of things like that. You can learn about enemies before you've encountered them. Just all kinds. There are all kinds of little tie-ins with the system, and I think it will actually be pretty interesting because it's kind of another side game on top of, or a little side quest on top of everything else. So
when I saw it said something with regards to the bestiary about experimenting. So are we like mutating animals or taking pieces and parts?
Not really. It's more like experimenting in way, because so the different fragments is what we're calling them. The different fragments or pieces of information that you get from enemies will have unique ways of earning that information. So the experimentation kind of refers to what you'll need to do as the player to figure out how to get those tidbits of information from the enemy. So it's kind of stuff like that. But of course, experiment, just referring in general to skill customization and stuff like that also.
So I know Bam was talking a little bit about when he was mentioning console support, and I missed it. If he asked, I apologize. Did he ask if you guys are looking to eventually go to any other platforms besides PC?
Yeah, we like we were saying, we were console gamers, children. That's where we got our start. I feel that certain, at the very least, like it would be a mistake to not include a game like this on as many consoles as we can get on. Time permitting, and of course, resource permitting. But we definitely, we're in talks with. We're actually going through the Xbox One submission process right now. And eventually we want to try to get it on PlayStation 4.
Yeah, the only thing stopping us there is they require a static IP address, which we're just not really
equipped to have now at this time, our company. But not only that, I mean, it's not as straightforward. You can't just say you can't just give them this version of the game and be like, yeah, here you go, just put it on your PS4, it'll run just fine. Even though Unity, that's the engine that we're using to make the game. Even though Unity claims to be able to port easily to these other platforms, we know better. we know that deep down it's going to be a more involved process.
File systems are going to be different,
right? Graphical capabilities. There's things that
DirectX 11 is required for some of our post processing stuff. Who knows?
So it's definitely going to be it'll be an involved process, and a lot of game developers will simply outsource that capability as well. They'll have separate third-party developers come in and do that for them. So that's always an option. But first and foremost, we're going to focus on PC, just kind of like we need to focus on the single-player aspects first. And hopefully we'll get there at some point. We're very much open to doing that.
Well, I know you guys mentioned earlier versions of the game before. So how long now have you been working on this game?
It's been about 2.5 years, probably closer to 3 at this point. It'll be 3 years exactly in May. So yeah, it's pretty close to 3 years. Yeah, we've worked on it for quite a long time. We've spent a lot of time getting the systems in place so that whenever we're ready to just try to deliver the content itself, we'd be able to crank that out much quicker than if we'd started and that's kind of why all of our demos have had the same area in it, just updated. We figured, and the same with the combat system, we didn't want to we wanted to make sure these fundamental systems worked and were fun in their own right before, saying, hey, let's just go ahead and make the game outright. And so, yeah, it's probably been about 3 years of just, full-time development amongst the two of us, of course. And that's, something that maybe a lot of indie developers or non-developers don't realize is that we've, all the outsourcing and stuff that we've had to do, we've had to manage that ourselves, which is not always an easy process. All of our marketing and stuff, we do that as well. And we're pretty active on social media, so we try to make a habit as much as possible. Obviously, this Kickstarter has been, we haven't developed anything on the game for quite some time just because Kickstarter itself is such an intensive process. and it really does just need your full attention.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Did you guys have a pretty big following going into the Kickstarter, or did you what kind of things did you do prior to starting the Kickstarter?
We had I want to say a decent following. As we're learning, though, it may not have been enough of a following. I think in general, Kickstarter is just a really difficult platform to get through now. It used to be in the past that pretty much you would get a lot of just organic traffic through Kickstarter itself. But nowadays, we found that only a very small portion, maybe 15 to 20% of our traffic actually came through Kickstarter. The other 80 or so percent has come.
What the effing hell is that?
That's about what my question was. What the hell?
That's just a little rabbit, He's
A rabbit? Dude, Jesus Christ. I'm not going to your island, dude. Sorry to break the train of thought there, but what the holy shit. Dude, don't run to it. Get a sword out or something.
Touch it.
No, Jesus Christ. What the
Some
fuck?
nightmare fuel for you.
Nightmare fuel. Not far wrong there. Holy crap.
As soon as it's
So he stops to open a box. Something I've learned from Dark Souls, never open a chest. Ever.
Hey, we never know.
We don't have any of those yet.
No mimics. No, not quite yet.
I kind of like the idea of those, so we'll see.
Yeah, except for the fact that Dark Souls.
There you go. You ran right up to it. Fight this thing. He just wants a friend.
Can I tame him? That would be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool, but no, unfortunately, not this guy.
Not these characters.
But just like outreach prior to Kickstarter, we spent a lot of time building following. Honestly, that may have not been the what. It's difficult to know exactly how to market the game and try. We've tried to get as large a followings as we can, but even forums and subreddits and stuff, we've managed to get some pretty nice followings on sites like that. And just really, we did spend a lot of time up and leading into the Kickstarter. We had regular updates. We posted a Kickstarter teaser trailer way before the actual trailer and Kickstarter launched.
Steam Greenlight, we did that, and that was successful. That was so successful. We thought, well, yeah, we've got a heck of a following. That happened real quick, and then
they got rid of Steam Greenlight right after we got through it. So they got rid of that, and we lost kind of the followers that we had through that because there was no easy way to bridge them over. We've been pretty prominent though on a lot of other platforms like Game Jolt, Steam itself. We have a Steam store page now, IndieDB, itch.io. There's a lot of even stuff like Facebook. We've tried to be as transparent as possible, and it's helped us, but in some ways it just it's hard to say what the exact mistakes we've made have been, and we'll just have to go back carefully and kind of just try to analyze it and see what we could do differently or better in the future for everything, social media and marketing and everything, really.
Well, and it sounds like regardless of how the Kickstarter does, I'm assuming you guys are still planning on going ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's this is one of those things I wanted to make, and there's no, we don't intend on stopping. It's just we might need to, scale back the development a little bit, just to kind of accrue. We've exhausted a lot of our funding and resources working on this game, and we'll just need to kind of take a step back and replenish that, as it were, and then we've always, this is not the first, we've watched a lot of Kickstarters. It's very difficult to get through there. We knew that going into it. And we've seen a lot of Kickstarters fail and relaunch and to great success. And that's probably, assuming this one doesn't pan out, that's probably the route we'll go down. Maybe 6 months from now, a year from now. There's still a lot of possibilities. There are publishers that we've been in talks with. So definitely not the end of the road by a lot.
Right, believe it or not, you guys answered one of. Shut up, Drake. Play a game.
Yeah, but I have a question about playing. Why can't I use the light serum to get the guy back
I
up?
don't care about your question. I don't care about your question. I'm just gonna give these guys some grief, and then you can ask a question. I was actually gonna ask them about, the social platforms they're on. Are they on itch.io? Are they on the old FaceAches? Are they on Twitters and the bits and pieces? And they basically walked me through that question without me answering. So, guys, brilliant. Well done. Well done. Drac, ask your question. Ask your question, Drac.
He's like, no, that's
I'm not asking my question now. Yeah.
No. I forgot to hold down the push to talk button. I was in combat. Sorry. I was wondering why I couldn't use the life serum to get Bodum back up.
I'd have to see what you're talking about real quick.
you have to be within range. I didn't get to see.
Also,
what was
you
going
entered a
on.
mode where you characters. If you just hit escape, you'll go back to the character you were controlling, or you can click on his panel up in the top right.
Oh, it's like teaching a 2-year-old how to count.
Basically, if you press, there are certain
cute.
buttons you can press that will let you kind of look at other characters. Okay, so let me see. If you life serum, there you go. You should be able to do it to him now.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had to be that close to him. So, I had to face that nightmarish creature with just 2 characters.
Without your damage dealer. Yes. But yeah, just to kind of go into further detail about that feature, a lot of times it's beneficial to be able to see what that character, let's just say you had the Elongata selected and he had a skill he was about to do, and you could see the actual red circle of that skill, so you can know where you could be without getting hit. So, this being a tactics game, it's actually sometimes beneficial to, instead of attack a creature, to move away. That way his attack fails and you won't take the damage. And that mode you were in right there just kind of allows that to be done easily. That way you can kind of see what he's doing, what the range of his attack, and you can actually do that with your own characters as well. So if Morlock's about to cast Chakra, you can go to him to see what his range is. That way you know where to move your character to get the healing effect.
The more I watch Jack play, the more I actually want to watch him play. Very, very intriguing game.
I'm enjoying this as well. He's doing well.
He did get Ripper caned.
That's true, but everybody
no one knows what that Grand Scythe ability does.
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
I've just been asked a question by G, and this is a question that G always asks. It's like my bacon question: will there be Mac support?
We actually plan on both Mac and Linux sometime between now and release, or possibly after release. It's something we definitely want to. We definitely are the Linux and Mac crowd. And we want to try to bring the game to them. Obviously, like it's very difficult for a 2-man team like ourselves to go into that from the very beginning. So it's definitely going to be something that's going to come after the PC version squared away. In some, I guess you could argue that it would have been beneficial to develop it at the same time as ours. Unfortunately, just we haven't had the time or resources to do that.
Yeah, neither of us have.
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
But it's definitely on our radar, and it's definitely something we want to provide at some point. Sorry if that sounds hand wavy. That's just unfortunately that's the at this.
No. I understand if it's a bit hand wavy, because a lot of people bicker and moan and cry and whine about me precious Mac support, me, and then then the company spends dollars, millions, trillions, whatever they want to throw a number at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Few people buy it. It's like, what a waste of time.
That's what it is. I mean, that's I understand. Trust me, I understand their plight, but you have to look at it from a marketing standpoint too. And it's exactly like you said. Windows has something like 85 to 90% of the market share. So I mean, it stands to reason that 85 to 90% of your efforts should go towards it. And or more. I mean,
it's just business. It's just a better business.
Exactly, and it's not like it's a slight to Mac or Linux owners.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Mac and Linux users love living in the Stone Age. It's great. I agree. I understand. Yeah.
All right, good. You'll make the slight for me.
I'll make as many slides towards Mac and Linux as humanly possible. They love living on a closed system. They don't want freedom. They just want to live on a closed system in a closed network. No outside forces bothering them on the little God knows whatevers.
Right.
I'll make that slide for you. Don't worry about it.
Dragons.
Thank you. All questions should be directed to
send
you.
all emails.
But
So can I fight this thing?
that eventually, but it has to ends in a specific spot, which I don't know if you'll get there in time.
And you won't make it anyway because you have a certain relic to even stand a chance.
Yeah, there's basically a certain item you can get from a boss later on that will let you can do it within this demo, but it requires a lot of preparation and grinding, honestly.
I didn't figure I'd survive. I thought that might be a good way to end the stream when we get into that point.
I don't know that you'll get to him
you can
in time.
Shift D, Shift 3.
What? No, that's just...
What? A tip I've learned in my extensive game playing: just go Fou Schroeder and
blowing away. There you go.
Blowing away. Done. Yeah, done, mate. Come on, Drac. Find the dragon, fight him, and die. Come on.
No pressure.
No pressure, Drac. No. Come on, run, fatty, run. Come on.
But basically, he's kind of on a timer, so he only he pretty much just landed.
Balls.
Yeah, that being said, if you were to say there's a save point up there because we were nice and put a save point by the place that you'll most likely get killed. But if you were to save and load from that file, he'll pretty much be there. Also, to get to him, you have to run the other way. So you basically have to run up that hill to your left and then go across that bridge. Also, I didn't mention this. If you press M, it will make your mini map bigger. I know there's a delay on it, but
okay, that's cool.
So then basically you'd have to run up and around toward the south where that icon, and then that would get you across. That would get you across the bridge, and then basically he's across the bridge.
Oh, okay. So that even though the map makes it look like I could actually go back,
we actually need to make that a little more obvious. Like you can't actually get to there without going all the way around. So basically, you'd have to go south.
I must say, it's quite a vibrant little world you guys have made here.
Well, thank you.
Watch. It's quite nice. I'm loving the what are they? Pedansies or what do you call them? The little pink things. Call them daisies, pedansies, whatever. I don't know flowers, bro. I'm sorry, I don't know flowers. I'm guessing a name.
Me neither. I'm like, sure, cauliflower. That's the only flower I know. No, but
the pink one over there.
Yeah, there you go. But no, thank you very much for that. We've we've made a lot of efforts to try to bring out the world as much as possible, and the graphical quality of the game is something that I spend a lot of time trying to improve.
Oh, I remember.
So
I remembered something I wanted to ask before was I noticed as you change out equipment, at least at this point, it doesn't look like that makes any visual change on your character.
Right.
Is that something that will be implemented further down the road over the...
I kind of want to give you an answer that says like, yeah, we'll look into that. But on the other hand, I want to be straight up with you. Probably not, just because that's kind of a difficult thing to implement properly. And maybe the weapons, we might make the weapons.
Weapons would be simple.
The weapons would be not easy to visually change, but I don't think we would be doing it for the armor and equipment just because that's a lot more involved. I do like when games do that. I wish we could I'd love to have that in our game as well, but I probably will not.
But again, making dozens of different people actually show up and correctly.
Yeah, some of the difficulty kind of getting it to like equip or like snap to the character properly. There's a lot of ways that a lot of things that you need.
And as two programmers, that's just not a nightmare we want to bestow upon ourselves.
Right.
By the way, you did not warn me about this monstrosity.
Oh, yeah, right. The plan was not to warn you. They're not going to hold your hand, Drac. Did you hear that about being vicious?
No, but they made it sound like a simple process. Like, just go up the hill and across the bridge, and there you'll find the dragon.
You know how RPGs are.
Don't mind the insect-like golem that's going to attack you.
Vicious, Drac. Didn't you hear the bit about tyrannical and viciousness? Yeah.
Right.
No hand holding.
Guys, we're loving this stream. We actually have a Facebook Live stream that we're doing at 8, and we need to do some preparation for that.
I'm hoping they'll just go fight the dragon and instantly die.
I think that will most likely happen.
It will, because he doesn't have the. That
is true.
The Archon's pendulum.
And again, please don't take that as me trying to cut you. This stream, we've very much enjoyed this. I just don't want to run over into that time.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah. I'm way over my bedtime. I was just going to call it.
Oh God, it's going to be late. What is it, like midnight over there?
Very, very, very true. Yes, midnight over here. Yeah. I got pulled in lastminute.com, not having done much research at all into the stream or who you guys are. I had to read up on whoever Derek was. I'm like, oh, Derek's here. He's got 2 voices. Okay, this is new. Better hurry up and catch up or be.
No, you guys this has been an awesome stream. You picked up on it pretty well, and you made me want bacon, so there's that.
Oh,
thanks a lot.
Speaking of which,
I do have one question. Shut up, play a game. I do have one question, right? And it's a question I ask everyone that comes onto our little podcasty show type effort thing, right?
Okay.
And question like this, and I would necessarily defer to a higher power, i.e. G, but this is a question I have to ask myself this time because Drax shooting a. So, bacon, guys, right? I need to know what bacon you like, how you like it prepared and served, and what beverage should accompany said bacon. Please, gentlemen, ask me. Tell me your answers, please. God.
I'm going to say rum is a good drink with it.
Fucking right, you got a winner there already. Winner, chicken dinner.
No, I may have been looking at.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you. This is probably, get a lot of people angry at me, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Here lately, man, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I've been eating a lot of turkey bacon, and I know
turkey bacon. Do turkeys even have bacon? What's this heresy? Yeah, that's turkey bacon. I've heard about
point
this.
actually.
Let's just cut him off. His answer doesn't count. It does not.
I'll let Andy,
multi-threaded games.
I do not speak on behalf of multi-threaded games. No, go ahead.
Right.
Yes. Well, for one, I don't know if I'm in the minority or majority here, but I do like my bacon a little crispy. I do not like it.
That's good. That's good.
Okay. And I actually straight up, I just like it with milk. It's a breakfast. It's a breakfast thing, and I drink lots of milk with breakfast. I like my bacon with milk. It cleanses the palate, and you go right back to a fresh piece of bacon taste.
I tell you what. You're right. Breakfast can be served with bacon, and yes, you can have a glass of milk with your bacon. That's actually quite nice. But I want to dive more into the turkey bacon nonsense. You see, the problem is, right, bacon grows on trees, right? And never really want to get a bit of bacon. You go and carve a piece off your bacon tree, right? Because you plant your bacon seed.
I've got 2 in the backyard.
Bacon tree. 2 in his backyard, right? No problems there. But trees, bro. Turkey's a bird you eat in Thanksgiving in America land. You don't get turkey in England land apart from the Christmases. But anyway, turkey don't grow on trees, bro.
I'll admit, it's not as good as regular bacon.
No, it can't be.
No, it's not. I'll admit that. But I pretend to be healthy sometimes. That way I can eat, if I eat turkey bacon, that means I can drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I just try to sacrifice one thing for the other. So
now, fat absorbs liquor and alcohol, and therefore actual bacon allows you to drink more.
Dude,
we'll go with that.
Let me ask you something, Bam. I actually heard a long time ago that in America, we eat a different type of bacon than pretty much any other part of the world. We eat the underbelly of the bacon, which is comprised of more fat than actual meat. Whereas like in England and, Canada and really anywhere else in the world, they eat like the top part of the belly, which has a lot less fat. Is that, I'm curious what the fat content of your
that's
bacon.
true. Yep, that's true. The Americans, they eat belly bacon, which is a lot more fat, and everywhere else in the world that considers bacon. Eat what I think they call back bacon, which has a thin strip of fat on the top. But to be brutally honest, mate, bacon is bacon no matter where you get it from.
Yeah, of course. It's
on the bacon tree I'm talking about, not the turkey birdie thing, right? The bacon tree, right? So bacon's bacon, bro. Yeah? Belly bacon or bacon, it's still motherfucking bacon. Just eat the bacon, get drunk.
Eat more bacon.
Eat more bacon. Yeah.
Bacon.
Bacon.
Bacon begets more bacon, always.
What's better than more bacon? More bacon. Yeah, so there we go. Done. That's me in a nutshell, guys. Happy days. Guys, thank you very, very much for coming along to our humble little channel and letting us stream your game. It was an absolute blast talking to you crazy guys.
Well, thank you very much for playing.
We've enjoyed it. And real quick, we have it ends on the 28th, so technically midnight on Wednesday. That'll be it. And I'm just going to drop the link in the chat if that's okay, in the Twitch chat.
Yeah, do it.
And then it would. I know. I figured it would do. I figured it had to be like a moderator or something like that. But either way, we're on Bevontule on Kickstarter. We're over halfway there. If any of you guys are listening or like what you heard, want to see the game actually get made, get made in a more reasonable amount of time, feel free to check it out. We're very much visible on social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, the like. And yeah, I just wanted to plug it. There we go. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. And again, guys, it's been a pleasure being on with you. I'd love to stay and watch your demise at the hands of this dragon. But unfortunately, we'll have to run. But I do appreciate, again, you guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Of course you can.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we went a little bit long because I got sucked in.
Totally fine, man. And again, I've enjoyed, I've very much enjoyed watching the playthrough and chatting with you guys. And hopefully we can do it again sometime. Maybe next time we'll be talking more about the millions that we've made.
Millions of yen.
That'd be awesome.
Millions of bacon pieces.
Oh, there we go. Millions of bacon.
Yes. Honestly, again, completely worthwhile.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for having us, and take care.
Hey guys, thank you very much for joining
Thank
us. We're just guys interested in games, as you can see, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Much love to all you and your beautiful faces.
Maybe one day.
Even you. It's still bacon. I take it.
All right, thank you. But all right, guys, have a good night. Take care.
Right, much love, guys. Toodaloo.
I'm gonna go find me a dragon to get killed by.
I'm going to watch you get killed by the dragon. I'm actually going to sit here and watch because this is fun. Right, come on, Drake. Oh. So apparently you have to be there in a specific amount of time, Drake. Are you within that time?
I don't know, but I think he said if we load out and then load back in, I think the dragon might be here.
Oh, right. So you're going to trick the game into thinking, okay, cool. Yeah. One punch, bang. So yeah, Bevontule or something, was it?
Bevontule.
Bevontule. Okay. Happy days.
Yeah, I had a few issues making sure I pronounced it correctly, but it was funny. They had a good sense of humor about that.
The fact you couldn't pronounce the game right.
There he is.
Bitch! Bring me back its skull. Oh shit, boy, run! Fucking hell.
Holy crap.
Ah, that's a big beast, man. And the attack circle is huge.
Well, not just that, but he just keeps attacking. I don't even get a chance.
Like, get one punch in at least. Punch him in the balls, brah! Oh shit, dude. That tail. Gotta cut it off, man. One down, one down.
2 points. Damn it.
You should have got him cornered up against a bit of rock, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. I've got him cornered.
Looking at the detail,
He took out my rogue.
It's quite well made. Okay, I know you're playing the game, right? And I know you're bang dead. I'm sure looking at the dragon sort of from what I can see playing it, it's very well put together, I think.
Oh, yeah. I like the model. He's cool looking. The mouth reminds me almost a little bit of the Rancor from Star Wars.
No, that's probably exactly what that damn thing is. That now that you've mentioned it, it's the Rancor with a bit of a neck and a bit of more of a tail.
And when he came up and roared, that was the first thing I thought of was the Rancor from Star Wars.
I'm thinking these guys are dropping Easter eggs left, right, and center. They're the right kind of geeks. Yeah, I think you're right.
I was waiting for him to stomp on me.
No, what was that film Coneheads where the guy gets a golf ball and fires a golf ball? That thing's neck. There we go. Oh, done. Spain can support that.
And G says it's a BAM Rhino.
It's a good-looking BAM Rhino. Yes.
All right. Well, with that, folks, we are going to close it out for the day. I know BAM is up really late over there, but this has been Bevontule. Check out their Kickstarter, and we'll make sure we put links in the description over on our YouTube channel when we get this video exported over there. And if you have any questions for us in the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at @Bamsters_.
Yes. Whatever Drac just said. Guys, actually, that was good fun talking to them, wasn't it, Drac?
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
Any questions, if you want to ask, please jump over to their Twitters, their Kickstarters. There'll be links everywhere. And throw us some questions as well if you don't mind. We'll always answer them, particularly bacon-related ones. I do enjoy me some good bacon talk. This turkey bacon confuses me. I need to go investigate.
Yeah, and then real quick before we end it out, if there's a game you want us to look at or review, send us some information. We'll check it out. And on that note, we will see you guys later.